Hi everyone, meteorologist Steve Caparata back with a special episode of Coast and Climate coming up tomorrow morning. If skies and fog allow here locally, we're hoping that's not too big of an issue. We'll have a bit of a show in the skies, an opportunity to catch a total lunar eclipse. So to bring in somebody that knows a little more about it than I do, an expert on the subject, I'm going to be joined by Michelle Thaller this morning. She's a NASA Assistant Director of Science for Communications, and she's going to be able to tell us all about it. So Michelle, first off, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you. Yes, we have coming up, like you said, your weather permitting, one of the most wonderful natural shows you have, a total lunar eclipse. And for those of you in Louisiana, that will be starting a couple hours around about 2 o'clock in the morning. The darkest part of the eclipse will be about 4:15 your time, 4 a.m. So this is kind of a middle of the night thing. If you happen to be up early, you can catch it. But what will be going on is that the moon will actually be moving into the shadow that the Earth is casting from the sun. So the moon, the sun, and the Earth all line up, and the moon is going to be passing through the Earth's shadow. And it'll take it a couple hours to do that entirely. But in the very, very darkest part of the eclipse, like I said, a little bit after 4:15 a.m., you may actually be able to see the moon turn a beautiful red color. And this is actually what we look for. This is one of the best parts of the eclipse. It happens when all of the light from the sun is blocked out by the Earth. It's in the darkest part of the shadow. And the only light that's getting to the moon is light that's actually filtering through the Earth's atmosphere, just like a sunset or a sunrise, the same reason it's red. And that turns the moon a rosy red. So it's a lovely show. I hope you can see it.
Yeah, we have kind of off behind me one of image from one of the past lunar eclipses, and you see a little bit of that red effect, which is always one of the really neat things to see. Now, we're coming up on about 50 years now since man or woman last stepped foot on the moon with Apollo 17, and NASA has this new initiative to try and get people back to the moon. We talked a little bit about it in one of our previous episodes of this podcast, Coast and Climate, Artemis, but what can you tell us about Artemis and why we're trying to get people back to the moon?
Well, yeah. You mentioned man and women, because of course, one of the most exciting things to me is having, the first woman, the first person of color on that team that will land on the moon. I'm actually really looking forward to the first Artemis flight, just going around the moon with people. One of my friends, Michelle Lindgren, a wonderful astronaut, will be on that. So for me as a scientist, I've kind of been chafing at the bit for decades, because the moon is a treasure trove of information. Unlike the Earth's surface, which is continuously changed by water and wind and floods and plate tectonics, the moon's surface is ancient. And it shows us what the Earth has been through, what the solar system has been like for billions of years in the past. Not much has actually changed the lunar surface. So, I mean, speaking as a scientist, I can't wait to get more lunar samples, more moon rocks. I mean, the rocks that Apollo brought back, about 800 pounds of them, were just more precious than gold to scientists, because in there were clues about the history of the whole solar system.
You led me into my next question here. So you talked about some of the reasons why we want to get back to the moon. And you kind of mentioned there too at the end of your answer that this kind of can provide some clues on other planets and things going on in our solar system. How is that? What can we learn from future missions to the moon?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the moon is basically used as kind of a ruler to actually estimate the ages of bodies all around the solar system. There was a time about 4 billion years ago when a huge amount of asteroids and comets were raining down on every planet. I mean, the Earth included, but the Earth has mainly changed since that time. The moon hasn't. So when we look at moons as far away as moons of Jupiter, moons of Saturn, we count the number of craters and then estimate how old that surface must be. And as I mentioned, the lunar samples actually showed us that the moon was made in a giant collision when two planets hit each other. And we would never even have known that happened unless we had those lunar samples. Now we look at planets around other stars, and we see that happening. We actually see evidence of planets colliding going on today. So the moon has become really this wonderful way to interpret the whole history, not only of our solar system, but of planetary systems in general.
You know, one of the things I love about lunar eclipses is you don't really need any special equipment to see this, right? Solar eclipses got to be obviously very careful, but do you have any viewing tips for anybody that wants to get up early on Tuesday and try to catch this lunar eclipse?
Well, absolutely. So, like you said, this is completely safe. There's nothing you need to worry about. So you have basically a beautiful full moon that's going to get darker and darker, starting about 2 in the morning, until eventually around 4:15 it'll be really, really dark and hopefully a little bit red. So just go out and find a place with a clear horizon. And look for the moon and just sort of sit back and enjoy the show. So, like I said, it'll go on for several hours. But if you want to see the best part, I'd say around about 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, one of the things I kind of mentioned at the beginning, Michelle, that we're kind of tracking here locally is this morning we had a lot of dense fog in the area. So we're kind of fingers crossed. Looks like we might have some fog around tomorrow. I'm just hoping it works out for us. Before I wrap up with you, NASA does so much great work. So where can people go to learn more about the moon and Artemis and all these great projects that NASA has going on right now?
Well, I mean, the easiest place to go, I mean, it's very easy to remember, is just go to the website nasa.gov. I mean, that's very, very simple. And if you want more information about this specific eclipse, you can go to nasa.gov/moon.
All right, some great information. Michelle Thaller, thank you so much, the Assistant Director of Science for Communications with NASA. And I imagine you're going to be up early watching this tomorrow?
Well, I think so. I mean, for those of us on the East Coast, it'll be an hour later. So maybe I can catch a little bit of it. But I love lunar eclipses. Definitely go out and try to see it.
All right, well, thank you again, and good luck if you are up early trying to catch that.
Thank you.
All right, so again, that is Michelle Thaller with NASA, who gave us all the information we need to know about tomorrow morning's total lunar eclipse, the last one here in 2022. One thing I think I forgot to ask her about, but I think we don't get another total lunar eclipse maybe until 2025. So if you want to try and catch this one, even this morning, as we dealt with some of that fog, our tower camera here at WAP was actually above the fog and had a decent shot of the moon. So maybe even if we have the fog down at ground level, the cameras will be able to help us out. So that's going to wrap up this special episode of Coastal Climate. If you get any good images of the lunar eclipse, we'd love to see those. You can always share those through our news and weather apps at 9reports.com as well, or send them to me via social media. You can catch all of our episodes of Coastal Climate as well on our YouTube channel, on our website, WAP.com. And I'll be back here next Thursday, more than likely. We typically do these on Thursdays, but hopefully next Thursday back with a new episode. We'll see you then.